Well, welcome everyone. Jason O'Hagan. Welcome to another edition of Weathertex Wednesday Live Webinar. Today we're talking about sustainable by design and the future of exterior finishes. And joining us today is Nick Waite, the National Commercial Façade Manager, Dulux Intergrain. Welcome, Nick, and thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Jason. Thanks for the opportunity to come in and partner with you on this, sir. It's really exciting. Yours is such a impressive and robust sustainability message at WeatherTex. It's a pleasure just to stand next to you. I work in the Dulux group of businesses, as you mentioned, Intergrain, Acrotex, and then the broader group. And we're certainly really passionate about sustainability as well. Building a future without harm is sort of our credo that we step towards. So it's a really fitting way and a great opportunity just to shine some light on some of the initiatives that we're undertaking that are, I think, complementary to your own.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to explore sustainability in exterior finishes, costings, facade systems that Nick will talk about, and how the industry is evolving towards a smarter, more durable and environmentally conscious design outcomes, things that Nick just talked about.
Mm.
The other thing we just wanted to add, Nick and the team from Dulux Intergrain will be joining us for the upcoming WeatherTex Open Day, which is at our factory on the 10th of July, just ahead of the Future Build Expo in Sydney. So the open day's been sold out. We've got a lot of strong interest there, and we've already got 70 people lined up where we're hoping to do another open day in September. So for those who are interested, get on our website and get further details. We can share it with you from this webinar. And we hope that everyone can join us. And they're really pleased to see that our open day has been sold out for the first time.
Mm.
For the audience joining us today, there's please be welcome to submit questions in the question box, and we'll answer them along the way. And we hope to get everything covered off. Nick, let's get underway. Sustainability has been a major focus across the industry, and it's something that sits at the core of what we do, WeatherTex, particularly with the better than zero carbon footprint. From Dulux Intergrain perspective, how has the sustainability conversation evolved with the coatings and finishes sector over the recent years?
Yeah, good question. So I come from a construction management background, and I think back to the early 2000s where sustainability was sort of bundled together with occupational safety, and it was sort of almost a compliance metric, right? It was a reportable thing. And now you fast forward 20 years to today where I see, sustainability practices at the absolute forefront of the construction industry as a really key driver. And as a result of that evolution and that coming to the very face of what drives decision making in the construction industry, we as a manufacturer, and you're a manufacturer too, that service the construction industry, we've had to evolve with it. And it's actually been that rise in awareness of sustainability as a key narrative that's sort of driven some of the key initiatives that I'm here to shine a light on. You think about the waste auditing that came in those early 2000s, and it was through waste auditing of some of our key aligned developer friends that born some of the initiatives that we now scaled up across the country. So the resulting impact of waste audits around perishables and plastic uses born the need for us to launch the Enviro Solutions program. And you fast forward to 2026, and we've now turned every Dulux Trade Centre and Inspiration store in the country into a recycling depot for the painters and renders and texturers across the country to return their plastic pails. And as a free of charge service, we then are recycling that plastic into a number of different pursuits, right? To manage the cradle to grave element of our business, which does consume elements of plastic, obviously, in the delivery of our paints and coatings to market. So from that evolution, we're now evolving even further and stepping into the future. We're now seeking integration with adjacent markets to our own. One of those is the facade space. And others. So, for example, that plastics now we're partnering with businesses like Biax and using them for pods in replacement of waffle pod in concrete slab constructions. We're making the little Rio bar chairs out of those plastics now with a business called Transmutation. The Big Bag Recovery Initiative. So we buy our raw materials, 1.3 million raw bags a year, which are plastic, is how we source our raw materials into our supply chain. We're now working with Big Bag to turn them into the plastic seats sitting in government schools. There's a hope that they're going to form part of the plastic seating that's going to adorn some of the Olympic stadiums in Vegas in a couple of years' time, right? So lots and lots of different adjacent markets that probably didn't immediately link to the Dulux paint coatings world, and we've all been pulled together by sustainability and by how it's evolved in the market. So we think that's a really, really impressive side effect, if you like, of how we've seen sustainability now sit right at the front.
Yeah, very much so. And I guess a lot of the audience may not have known that because you think about sustainability and finishes, what they look like today, and you've significantly advanced beyond just low VOC claims from what you just spoke about.
You did right, and VOC is an important part where it's sort of, I don't want to say started, but
Mm,
low volatile organic compounds in paints and coatings is important. In our Enviro 2 family of paints achieve that. Intergrain have got a really impressive array through their water-based offers, which have achieved a global green tag level A coatings initiative. Really, really impressive stuff, right? But it is kind of the start of a journey where now we see that the journey of sustainability for us is around life cycle performance, right? So it's a broader net that we cast now. Now we talk
yeah.
about how we responsibly and ethically source materials, the manufacturing process, our manufacturing plants and how optimized they are, how we weaponize freight from a sustainability lens as we move our product around this massive country of ours. Waste reduction, of course, circular economy stuff like what I just spoke to you about. Even wastewater management has become a really key focus of ours, where we've developed now systems that can take the offlow of the painter washing up at the end of a project in the housing market, contain it as opposed to it just leaching into groundwater, and then
Mm.
use a two-part flocculant to separate the bad from the good. The offshoot water can be released safely into the environment, and then the crud, if you like, can be disposed of through the garbage recycling system. So all of those now form a really important part of sustainability as we understood it. So if we at a time understood it around how to manage toxicities in paints, how to obviously reduce harmful elements to paints, sure, that's important, and low VOC is a wheelhouse that represents that. But that broader net is really where it's sort of steering now. And it just enables us to move into a whole bunch of different silos within our business.
And I think some really pertinent points, Nick, because one of the reasons us WeatherTex decided to bring Dulux on board as a supplier of our primer that we put on our WeatherTex panels and sheets and planks, etc. So yeah, some very pertinent points and very close to our heart and important as a supplier to WeatherTex. You're playing that role as a supplier too.
It's a really welcome collaboration. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Like talking about durability and maintenance, how important is that in the maintenance reduction when considering the sustainability performance of exterior products?
Yeah, and now I'll sort of pivot directly to the exterior facade space, one you play in heavily, Jason.
Yes.
You're exactly right. Durability, I left it till last out of all of those important criteriums,
Mm,
is probably the most important way that we as a coatings provider can enable sustainability, because what we really want to do is look, entropy is a fact of nature, right? Everything is going to degrade over time. It's going to weather. It's going to be exposed to UV. It's going to be exposed to moisture. So, as a coatings provider in the facade space, in the exterior space, we are that final protective barrier between any good system and the environment that seeks to destroy it, right? So, I know that sounds a little bit grim, but the extension of the maintenance intervals for any exterior facades system is a sustainability journey of its own, because it means that we're not revisiting a facade to a home, to a building, to an infrastructure, to any asset really, any sooner than we need to. And as science has progressed, and certainly we spend an abundance of resource in the R&D sector, always improving our products. And we just re-released Weather Shield last year with improved warranty periods and improved performance indicators around all of those measures I just spoke to you about: moisture resilience, UV protectancies. We extend the warranty periods of the substrates that sit beneath them as well by effect. And what that means is we do not have to revisit the sourcing of the material to redo and revisit these facades. We don't have to enjoy the labor of it, the energy, the water, the freight component. Basically, by extending the maintenance intervals or the longevity and life cycle of those facade systems by way of the coatings having an extended warranty and performance period, durability enables better sustainability, right? We want these homes, we want these buildings, we want these facades to last for a really long time. And I'm sorry to go on, but I'll give you a great example of that because I think it speaks directly to your wonderful product, right? WeatherTex, an amazing product, as mentioned before, right? Incredibly natural, which we love. It's got low surface temperatures, which a coatings manufacturer loves as well, right? But in every facade system, you've got a number of different contributors. So you've got your lovely board, which we understand really well. We've got products to prime to it. But you've also got a system made up of aluminium corners and angles and joiners and articulation points, and so should everybody, right? And we do this in the cladding market because we know that buildings articulate, and we have to be able to express that articulation. So we've got products in the Dulux Acrotex range, which are membranes, and they are, if you like, a tier above an acrylic paint solution for products like WeatherTex, wherein it has an elastomeric quality. So it still ticks all of the boxes around UV repellencies and moisture repellency, salt repellencies, pollutant repellencies, all good, great things, right? But it breathes, for one thing, which is a fantastic thing for any home. But really importantly, it'll elasticize over those movements. And I don't mean massive movement. It can be as small as cyclic movement, right? Through no fault of anybody's. An aluminium corner angle is going to expand and contract a little bit differently in heat and cold than a compressed board would, right? And so that difference in movement needs to be articulated in the coating system or else you perforate. So we've created these systems and we've worked really closely with your business to have a system solution, which is also backed by a Dulux warranty, but it speaks to the entire system that you propose as a facade. So we're trying to move from just being a coating, which is in a bucket. You can go buy it at Bunnings tomorrow. That's great too. But we want to have a specification that can go out to all the folks that are listening at home or in their offices now, which directly tethers the WeatherTech system to the coating system that we offer and have the assurances that this has all been tested in the background and what we say we mean. And that I think is a really key point to how durability has evolved for us as well and how we come about the exteriors market.
But I think you've, detailed answer and a lot of information around the durability or the importance of durability and maintenance.
Yeah.
Um, I guess you've answered this, but tell me if you haven't, the role that coatings and protective finishes play in extending the life cycle of
Yeah.
facade materials.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've touched on some of that, but
Mm.
you're right, right? The life cycle carbon. So the overall life cycle carbon of an initiative like a WeatherTex clad home needs to be controlled additionally by the durability of its coating system, because a part that feeds that is the length of time that the home can sit unmaintained, right? So that durability extends that maintenance interval, which then reduces all of the resourcing that has to go into maintaining the home, right? And I'm talking over 20, 25 years. These are lengthy periods of time. As we're making incredible advancements in the durability space, and I mentioned Weather Shield, but we're working on a number of other iterations of that, where, early adopters of AI technology within the Dulux business, I'm fascinated to see what that does
Yeah.
to the technologies that we're driving into our paints and coatings in the Intergrain business as well. I think it'll be really interesting to ask me again in maybe even a shorter span as 2 years, given how rapidly everything's evolving in that AI space and how well we're managing to integrate that into our business and the solutions we're putting forward, that durability is going to pretty well extend exponentially over a space of time. And then what does the futuristic solutions for WeatherTex look like? We'll probably, hopefully, extended warranty periods well beyond the ones we're talking about now.
And I guess it leads to the smarter finish selections by customers or our customers to help reduce the long-term environmental impact and
Mm.
maintenance requirements. And is there anything more to add on to that one, Nick?
No, not really. Just, I mentioned at the start that I've come from a construction background. And what I've really noted in my time in the industry has been that real shift towards panelized cladding solutions in the housing market in particular, but not exclusively. So, where Australia was 25 years ago as a traditional block brick masonry provider to the market, which has certain thermal efficiencies and is a certain carbon footprint, and that's reasonably inescapable, although I'm sure there's initiatives sitting in that pocket as well. this adoption by Australia of panelised solutions, which include, the wonderful WeatherTex offer to market, well, they're the kind of things that we really welcome, because each of those silos, and that's, you know, off form, AAC, FC, compressed board. There's a lot of different offers to market in that space, and they each require really unique solutions from a coatings perspective. Not one looks and feels and reacts the way that another does. So
Yes.
we welcome that as a challenge for innovation in that space, to be honest with you. So, again, talking to the future, we can see a space where we will see additional innovations from the likes of WeatherTex. What does tomorrow look like in terms of the cladding and facade space? Well, we can't wait to find out. And my role, and by way of explanation of my role, is a strategic partnerships role of sorts. And it's the Dulux business reaching out to the Jason O'Hagans of this world and saying, well, where are you going? What are you doing? And I talked about plastic pail recycling before. We're actually reaching out to our partners like yourself to say, hey, if we can make a little bar chair for Rio Rod in a concrete slab system, what do you need, right?
Yeah.
Because it just ever increases the interconnectivity between our businesses, and that's what we're really seeking. We don't want to be a coatings manufacturer that sits entirely separate to the pursuit of new and innovative ways to clad a home, to clad a building.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's part of the future and working together to create these innovations and around sustainability initiatives. And I think, you've touched on anything is all your sustainability initiatives and innovations that Dulux Intergrain are doing at the moment. Is there anything specific apart from what you mentioned that you'd like to share with the audience that's sort of sitting in the area that you're just working on that you're hoping to release, or you're virtually
Yeah, yeah,
focused on
yeah.
everything at the
I mean, look,
moment?
there's a lot I can't talk about yet, and I'd love
Yes,
to, right? And maybe there's a future occasion where we can make some great announcements, right? And but
sure.
but that all being said, right, and I'm sure plenty of attendees to this webinar will be aware with the Green Star Council and how they've driven a whole bunch of really positive initiatives into particularly the housing market. We really use that as a framework or a governance ourselves as well. So increasingly in the background, because Dulux is a portfolio of a lot of different businesses, right? We are our core decorative offer, which most people are aware of. The Acrotex business is principally aligned to the exteriors element, which is why I'm wearing it on my shirt collar today. You've mentioned Intergrain and Cabots. We have a Vista for concrete care. We have Sellies. We have Yates for garden care. Lincoln Century. There's a whole bunch of really separate B&D roller doors. There's a whole bunch of businesses that make up our whole. So one element or one category out of those Green Star recommendations that I really resonate with and keep coming back to, and I can tell you that our business is really working with, is that responsible envelope conversation or category. There's heat resilience and things as well, but that responsible envelope, I think, is you and me working together, right? Because you can't have a responsible envelope to a building without its exterior facade substrate. You can't have that. But then the coating system, as we've spoken about, is really important and intrinsic to those performances as well. So how do we just continue to explore in that space? And that's a space I'm directly driving at a national level with our business more broadly. And lots of things are popping up. And actually, we're probably learning more than we're imparting at the moment, because we're stepping into businesses like WeatherTex and are having a look under the hood and asking questions. How do we further the pursuit to a responsible envelope in what we do together? And the answers are really surprising. So we've made some significant investments into our R&D labs with some technologies. So we're investing in the future, knowing also that AI, as mentioned, is going to come in and bolster that as well. So what you're probably going to see from us, don't quote me, is an acceleration of solutions across the market. And I mentioned a lot of different categories and business units that sit in Dulux there. I can tell you that they're all in the pursuit of that common goal, right? That future without harm credo that I mentioned at the beginning is a serious aspect to our business, and every category manager that sits under our umbrella is driving towards that. So there's a lot of little look and feel things. There'll be some that are more relevant to that exteriors facade space than others. And let us come back to you. I think that'll be a really
Sure.
exciting follow-up to today's session.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sure our audience here and all architects, specifiers, designers, builders, and developers will really pleased to hear what you guys are doing in that space. And in saying that, a little side thing. WeatherTex have got an announcement which we'll do next week around some significant sustainability offers and claims that we've now been tested for a number of months that we've managed to will release next week. So stay tuned and keep an eye on your EDMs and the WeatherTex website for that announcement, which is we're really excited about. Nick, what are some of the common mistakes that people make when selecting exterior finishes or protective systems that you guys have come across?
Yeah, and I think I'll be broad about this, right? I don't like naming names and shaming, but the mistake that we see in our conversations around this is focusing on upfront cost without considering that life cycle performance that we're talking about. So I think a real narrative that needs to be understood better. I mean, it's understood in part, but by architects, by specifiers, certainly by builders and developers, is consider all of the good work that we're doing, and some of this comes at an internal expense, and then understand how that represents over a longer span of time, right? Both, in terms of performance indicators for the home, I'll pick on the housing market, for the home that you're selling, yes, right? But also for your own brand as well, right? Because we don't want brand harm. So we have inbuilt costs to a lot of the facilities and initiatives that I've spoken to you about today, and they're all really important things, and we're only going to push forward with them irregardless of cost. But you know what? Sorry, actually, in saying that, you think about, I'll dive back to that plastics recycling initiative again. With the recent war in Iran and the unavailability of petrochemicals, virgin plastics might have been, 3 or 4 months ago, $1.20 a kilogram. They've jumped to $3.20 a kilogram now. So you talk about using and capturing that 70 tons of plastic out of the system. It's great that it's not going into landfill. It forms an amazing message as well. But importantly, there's a commercial element to it too, right? We've actually saved some money and provided an operational efficiency in the face of uncertainty around international supply chains. So keeping some of this circular economy stuff within ourselves and within Australia, quite frankly, as well, gives us some immunity from what's happening on the world stage in parts, right? We're all bound to that in our own ways, and certainly we're no exception. But I like how we can build a little moat in some places and feed ourselves. So I can tell you that just off the back of those increases, it's really prompted even further investment for us into how do we get more recycled plastics into more initiatives, into more of our buckets. We're operating with 50% recycled plastics at the moment in some of our pails. And I'm no chemist, but I understand there's some incumbents around the amount of plastics that have to have certain amounts of integrity to then be used in consumables. So we're trying to actively step through that now. We are innovating in the background. Internationally, we're drawing on partners from Asia as well, just to figure out what else we can do to use more of that plastic in-house and increase and improve that cradle to grave circular journey that we're on.
Yeah, great innovations, mate. Um,
Mm.
just in closing, if you had your crystal ball and you've talked about a lot of this now, but looking at the future of sustainable exterior finishes heading over the next 5 or 10 years,
Mm.
where would you see it being at over that period of time?
I'm sorry to reiterate, but since we're in closing, I guess it's a bit of a conclusion of sorts. There's a few different pillars to that. The science that we're enjoying now and the startling reality of where that's driving us, I think is going to really, really bump the needle on durability. And we've come a long way with durability in coatings in the 20 years that I've been involved in the facades industry. However, what we're probably about to see, you mentioned over 5 years. I think that'll really, for those specifying and making considerations around, for example, heat resiliences as we've stepped through 7-star, probably towards 8-star requirements in housing and so forth. I think you'll see some really strong improvements, which can be in no more appropriate place than Australia because of the harsh weather conditions and hot summers that we see. So I think you'll see us really pivot and provide some new performance indicators around solar reflectivities and solar absorbencies in our paints. And circular material flow will be another. I mean, I've touched on a lot of the products that are sort of sundry to our manufacturing process, but consider that we would look down the pathway of how do we reuse already used paints? What can we do with the actual paint, not the bucket that it was sold in, to reconstitute it into paints or resale it into paints. And we've got some initiatives in Europe and England at the moment which are making some headway with those sort of movements. I think you'll see a lot more of that as well. So I think we'll capture a lot more of the waste element of our business once it's left our shores, brought into our sustainability message as we step forward. And then the last one is the one, my friend, where you come in immediately, which is, the integration across those construction material providers. So working with other manufacturers in adjacent markets, finding out what your opportunities and challenges are, seeing how we can address them through the existing infrastructures that we have around sustainability, but then also having them drive new sustainability practices, just like that waste auditing back in the early 2000s drove us to recycling plastics and reusing wastewater. I love to think what we're going to do as we dive deeper into our partners in the market. And for everybody listening as well, we welcome the advice and the input from the specifier, from the architect, from the developer space as well. You've got different touch points to the construction market. You may observe different opportunities and different challenges. Bring it on, because it's fuel for our fire. And I hope what we leave you with in 5 to 10 years' time is something even more remarkable than what we're looking at today.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Some very detailed and pertinent information, and we hope everyone enjoyed listening to the details that we went through with Nick. Nick, thank you for joining us.
My
And
pleasure.
Nick,
Thank you very much.
Weathertex really appreciate the partnership and enjoy working with Dulux Intergrain and lots of good things in this space happening, as you've mentioned during the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, it's been really lovely having you having me, and thank you very much to everybody listening as well. I appreciate taking up your time and allowing me the opportunity to shine a little light on what's happening in the coating space, as particularly relevant to the exteriors facade space. And I look forward to seeing you next week at your impressive open day event, and then hopefully stepping into a future event given the popularity. I'm very excited for your business for that.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Thanks for joining us. And as mentioned, or I didn't mention, but I should mention at the start that each attendee will receive one informal CPD certificate, which will a CPD point that we'll send out via email at the end of this session. So thank you everyone for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it. And remember, stay clipped the press release WeatherTex next week on a new sustainable credential, which is again setting us apart from in the cladding world. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Bye bye.